Save the excuses, the Navy SEAL colonel mocked her PT reason, until her shrapnel injuries changed the entire room. It was still dark outside when she woke up, not because an alarm went off. She had been awake for a while already, lying on her bunk, staring at the ceiling. That was normal for her now. Sleep had never fully come back after everything that happened overseas. Some nights she got 4 hours, some nights 3. She had stopped counting. She sat up slowly. Her left hand went to her lower back without her even thinking about it. Just a habit now, the way some people stretch their arms in the morning. She pressed her palm flat against the spot where it always hurt, and held it there for a second. Then she stood up. It was PT evaluation day. Physical training test. Every soldier had to pass it once a year. Push-ups, sit-ups, and a 2-mile run. For most people on the base, it was just one of those days. Annoying, maybe a little stressful, but nothing serious. For her, it was something she had been thinking about for 2 weeks. Her name was Staff Sergeant Elena Vasquez, 31 years old. She had served 3 tours in Afghanistan and 1 in Iraq. She had been a combat medic, the person soldiers called when things went wrong, when there was blood, when someone couldn't breathe. She had seen things and done things that most people will never have to experience in their entire lives. But right now, none of that mattered on paper. What mattered was how fast she could run 2 miles. She pulled on her PT gear, laced up her boots carefully, and headed out into the cold morning air. The sky was the dark blue color it gets right before the sun starts to come up. Other soldiers were already gathering on the field. She could see their breath in the air as they stretched and talked quietly among themselves. Standing at the edge of the field was Colonel Drennan. He was a big man, built like someone who had never once skipped a workout in his entire adult life. He was a retired Navy SEAL, with 30 years of service behind him, and he carried himself the way those men always do. Like the ground beneath his feet was lucky to have him standing on it. His reputation on the base was already well known. He was the kind of officer who believed that making soldiers uncomfortable was the same thing as making them stronger. He did not have much patience for what he called excuses. He had built his whole career on the idea that a real soldier pushes through, no matter what. Elena had heard about him. She had tried not to think too much about it. The test started. Push-ups first. She got through them fine. Her upper body had always been strong. Then sit-ups. Also fine. She could feel people finishing around her, moving on, but she kept her focus. One thing at a time. That was how she had survived 4 deployments. One thing at a time. Then came the run. The first half-mile felt okay. She had a rhythm going. But somewhere around the second lap she felt it. That deep, sharp pull in her lower back and left leg that she knew better than anything else in her life. It wasn't exactly pain. It was more like a warning signal. Like her body was reminding her that it was not the same body it used to be. In 2019, during her last deployment in Afghanistan, her convoy hit an IED on a dirt road outside Kandahar. The explosion flipped the vehicle. When Elena came back to consciousness, 2 of the soldiers next to her were badly hurt, and she had shrapnel in her lower back and left leg. She spent the next 5 hours doing what she was trained to do, keeping her teammates alive, applying pressure to wounds, talking to them, holding it together, before the medical evacuation team finally arrived. Later, at the military hospital, the surgeons told her that 3 of the shrapnel fragments were too close to her spine to safely remove. They were going to stay in her body, permanently. The doctors told her she might never run the same way again. She had nodded, asked a few questions, and then quietly started figuring out how to run anyway. She had returned to active duty because she did not know who she was without the uniform, but she had never told anyone in her current unit about the full extent of what was going on inside her body. She did not want to be treated differently. She did not want people looking at her with that particular expression, the one where they're being kind but what they're really doing is lowering their expectations of you. She just wanted to be a soldier. On the 4th lap of the run, her leg buckled. Just slightly, just for a second, on a turn. She corrected it fast and kept going. But he saw it. Colonel Drennan was standing near the finish line when she crossed it. Her time was 47 seconds over the required standard. She was breathing hard. Her face was flushed. She had given it everything she had. He did not let her catch her breath. "Save the excuses, Sergeant," he said, loudly enough for the soldiers nearby to hear. "Whatever you were about to tell me, I don't want to hear it. You didn't meet the standard. That's all I see on this sheet." She hadn't said a word. She was still trying to breathe. He kept going. He talked about the standard. He talked about what it means to wear the uniform. He mentioned other soldiers who had finished ahead of her. His voice was not cruel exactly. It had that particular military tone that is clinical and cold, and somehow worse than being yelled at. He was not angry. He was just disappointed, and he was making sure everyone around him knew it. Elena stood at attention the whole time, her back straight, her eyes forward. The expression on her face did not change. She said, "Yes, sir," twice. That was it. Inside, she felt something she had not felt in a long time. Not embarrassment, not anger. Something quieter and heavier than both of those things. The feeling of having given everything your broken body had to give, and having someone look at it and call it not enough. Sergeant First Class Dominique Harris had been watching from the side of the field. He was Elena's direct supervisor, and he was one of the very few people who knew all of it. The IED, the shrapnel, the surgeons, the fragments that would never come out. He had asked Elena, more than once, to officially document her injuries through the proper medical channels. She had always refused. She was afraid it would end her career. He had respected her decision. He had kept her secret. But standing there, watching her stand at attention while the colonel talked down at her like she was just another underperforming recruit, Harris felt something inside him shift. He had carried this too long, and she had carried it even longer. He stepped forward. He was calm. He was not disrespectful. He said, "Sir, can I have a word with you?" In the kind of voice that makes it clear, it is not really a question. The colonel looked at him. Harris had his own record. Years of service, multiple deployments, the kind of history that earns you the right to be heard. The colonel gave him a nod. Harris told him everything. He told him about the convoy, about the explosion and the 5 hours in the field, and the surgeons, and the 3 fragments sitting next to Elena's spine right now, at this very moment, while she stood in front of him. He told him that Elena had been quietly managing pain every single day for the past few years, and had told no one because she wanted to be judged like every other soldier, not like someone to feel sorry for. Then Harris pulled out his phone and opened her medical summary. He had kept a copy, quietly, just in case a moment like this one ever came. He handed it to the colonel without drama. "She never told you," Harris said, "because she didn't want it to matter. She just wanted to finish the run, sir." The field had gone very quiet. A young captain named Rachel, who had been nearby, had stopped walking. Some other soldiers, who had been heading back to the barracks, had slowed down without realizing it. Everyone could feel that something was happening. That invisible shift in the air when a moment becomes bigger than the people standing in it. Colonel Drennan read the document. He read it slowly. His face did not give much away, but the way he held that phone, carefully, like it was something that mattered, told its own story. Elena had not moved. She was still standing at attention, as if none of this was about her, as if she had found some quiet place inside herself to wait in, while the world decided what to do with her truth. The colonel lowered the phone. He walked toward her. He stopped a few feet away. For a moment he just looked at her. Really looked. Probably for the first time that morning. When he spoke, his voice was different. The command register was gone. What was left was just a man talking. "I was wrong," he said. "Not about the standard, but about you. I looked at your time and I thought I knew what I was looking at. I didn't." He paused. Then he said something that the few people who were close enough to hear would remember for a long time. "I've spent 30 years believing that the strongest soldiers are the ones who don't carry anything extra, but you've been running with things inside your body that most people couldn't even stand with, and you didn't say a word about it. That's not weakness, Sergeant. That's the kind of courage I don't have a form for." He asked her, quietly, if she would be willing to sit down with him after the day's session, not to change her file, but because he wanted to understand her situation better, as a human being, not as a colonel with a clipboard. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she said yes. In the weeks that followed, Elena finally went through the official medical review process that she had been avoiding for years. Her PT standards were adjusted to reflect her documented injuries. It did not change her record. It completed it. The full picture, finally on paper. Colonel Drennan submitted a formal written request asking command to review how soldiers in physical transition, especially combat veterans with permanent internal injuries, are evaluated. He cited the events of that morning as the reason. He used Elena's case, with her permission, as the example. Captain Rachel, the young officer who had witnessed everything, started doing something small but real in the weeks after. She started asking soldiers questions she had never asked before. Not about scores or times or evaluations. Just, how are you doing? What's going on? Is there anything I should know that isn't in your file? Small questions. But sometimes the smallest questions open the biggest doors. Elena finished the transition program and was reassigned to a medical training unit, where her experience as a combat medic became exactly the thing that was needed. She was teaching now, passing on what she knew. Her body was still the same body, still carrying what it had always carried, but she was no longer carrying it alone. On her last morning in the transition unit, she made her bunk, signed her paperwork, and walked outside. The base was quiet, the sky still pale. She pressed her palm flat against her lower back, the way she always did, held it there for a second. Then she dropped her hand, and she walked forward. Some wounds don't show, some strength doesn't make noise, and sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is simply keep going, without ever asking for credit. End of story.